So we are going to start with the solution to our last assignment. And I think this is what I was to do. Give us to get two inputs from users. One should be for the name, while the other should be for the age. Then we should have a result that looks like this. Hello name will be whatever the user input as age, add 5 to it, then years old in 5 years time. So let's add the codes together. So let's get a variable called name, and we're going to say let this be an input. Enter your name, then next you can get the age. Say input, enter the age, then you can then have a result. You can now say print hello, then we can concatenate it with name, add a comma here. Now if you say age plus 5, I want us to know that age is a string, and if you try to let's try to run this so that you understand this very well. Age plus 5 in 5 years time. So we have this hello name will be age plus 5 in 5 years time. Let's run this in our terminal. So we can say Python, I think the name of the file is index.py. Enter your name, let's say 12. Enter your age, let's say 20. Now what we have will be age plus 5 in 5 years time. Can only concatenate string, not integer. Now what we are trying to do is this 5 is an integer, and I told you earlier that in our last class that whatever you get from an input is a string. Whatever you get from an input is a string. So you can't concatenate this plus this integer. So meaning if you want to do it, either you make both of them strings or both of them numbers. Let's first look at the first option, making both of them string and see the u we're going to have also. Because by writing this, it means that this is now a string. I can now concatenate it with this h. So let's run it again. So enter your name, let's say h, let's say 30. Now because you are concatenating, concatenation is going to weld them together. So 30 plus 5, that's 3 or 5. Like 30 concatenate, we are concatenating 30 with 5, so it's going to be 3 or 5. So we are not going to be using string, we are going to be turning both of them to integer instead. With that, it's going to treat it as numbers. So we can just put int there, then this can now be fine. So I'll put uppercase next time. So this is what's going to happen. At this point, we are getting string from users. Then So someone wants to join the class. Let me quickly admit the person. So at this point, we are getting string from the user, but we are converting it to integer. So integer plus 5, meaning let's assume the user plus 30. 30 plus 5, that becomes 35. But if this is not there, if this is not there, this is an integer, and there's no way you can concatenate an integer with a string. This is a string. It's going to throw back an error. So what you can do is you can just convert everything, that is the result of whatever you get here, convert the result to string, so that we can now do this. So let's say James, then let's say 15. So alright, any question? Who doesn't understand any part of it? If there's a part that you don't understand, please can you let me know? Can we proceed? Hello everyone. Hello everyone.
Hello. Yes, yeah.
Okay. So today we are going to be going to if statements or conditional statements. This is what we use conditional statements for. To do something if some certain conditions are met. Every day we process if statement, we process conditional statement every day. Now, let's say you want to good. If you are driving a vehicle and you notice that the fuel tank is low. Now, if you get to a filling station, you can choose to get fuel or not. But then you are not going to branch to the filling station if you realize that it is closed. If it's not opened, you won't branch to the filling station. But if it is opened, then you will branch. Meaning that provided the filling station is opened, then you will branch. If it's not opened, then you are not going to branch. That's what you just did there is a conditional statement. Meaning I will branch if it is opened. I will not branch if it is not open. And that's what we use if statements for. We use to do some things if some certain conditions are met. Meaning that if these conditions are not met, you are not going to do those things. Let's start. This is how it works. Say if, let's get a variable. Let's start. Let's first get a variable. I can create a variable called num, and I can say the value of num is 4. So we've created a variable called num, and the value of that variable is 4. We can now say if num is greater than 2, what do we want to do? Whatever you want to do will be within this column. Press enter. See, indentation is very important in Python. Indentation. If I put the code here, it's not going to work the same way as this. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's not going to work the same way as this. Let's go again. If num is greater than 2, you put a colon. If this condition is met, what do I want to do? Whatever you want to do, you put it here. Let's say print hello. If this condition is met, then print hello. The space between here and this place is 4 backspaces or 1 tab. You can just press tab once, or you press backspaces 4 times. Space bar 4 times. Space bar 4 times. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's very important. Or you press tab just once. This is different from this. Oh, sorry. It's different from this. So what we have here is this. If this condition is met, then run this code. Do we get the explanation? Are we together?
No.
Okay, let's go again. We have a variable called num, and the value of that variable is 4. We say if num is greater than 2. The question I'm asking now is num greater than 2?
Yes.
Because
Yes.
that condition is met, because that
Yes.
condition is 2, it's going to run the code here. It's going to run the code within this if block. Now the question is, where is the boundary of this if block? That is, what are the codes within this if block? Let's add another code to the if block. Print I. This is within this if block. But I want you to know that this is not within the if block. Do you get it? This is not within the if block. Indentation is very important in Python. This space shows that it's within this if block. This doesn't have 4 spaces like this. It's just here, meaning that it's outside the if block. It's not dependent on this condition. Only these codes, these 2 lines, are dependent on this condition. If this condition is met, then it's going to run these 2 lines. But you see, this line 6 is non-dependent, meaning that whether this condition is true or not, it will still run the codes on line 6. Do we get the idea? Any question? If you understand it, say yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
If you don't understand it, say
No.
okay. Let's come again. We have a variable called num, and the value of that variable is 4. Then I'm asking us, is num greater than 2? Yes. Let's change the value of num to 1. Is 1 greater than 2?
No.
Because of that, it's not going to run the code. It's not going to do this, because this condition is not true, is not met. So it's not going to. I'm not trying to explain to us that, let's say we add this. This is outside the if block. Then the question is, how do we know the codes within an if block or the codes outside? And I said indentation helps us to do that. You can see that there is a space between this and this place. This space shows us that it is within this if block. The space is very important. It is not, and I try to tell us that the space there is 4 spaces. 1, 2, 3, 4. It is not 3, it is 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 spaces. Or you press tab once, your tab bar once. So this space shows that it is within this if block. Why this is not within the if block? Because there is no indentation here. If I press this tab once now, then this is also within the if block, meaning that all these 3 lines will only be executed if this condition is met. And as we can see it now, this condition is not so. So if you run this code, it's not going to do any of these 3 lines. Do we get the idea?
Yes.
Yes.
So we can't say anything. That's because because the condition is not met. But if we change the value here to, let's say 7, since 7 is greater than 2, then it will execute all the commands within this if block. Let's move on. Aside this greater than, we can also use less than. So is this condition true?
No.
No. For that reason,
No.
it's not going to execute any of these lines. We also have the greater than or equal to. The greater than or equal to is going to be executed if the value is greater than or it is equal to 2. What that means is this. If I run is 7 greater than or equal to 2?
Greater than.
Yes, 7 is greater
It's
than
greater.
2, meaning that it will run this. If you also put 2 here, 2 is also equal to 2, it will still run it. But if you put, let's say, minus 6, minus is not greater than 2 and it is not equal to 2, so it's not going to run it. Do you get the explanation?
Yeah.
Aside the greater than or equal to, we also have the less than or equal to. The same way, it's going to check if this value is either less than 2 or is equal to whatever value you put here. You can put maybe 4 here. Is minus 6 less than 4? No. Is it equal to 4? No. Since it doesn't meet any of the two conditions, it's not going to run the code. Oh, sorry. Is minus 6 less than 4? Yes.
Yes.
Minus 6 is less than 4. It's going to run all the commands here. In the same way, we also put 4 here. 4 is equal to 4. It will still run the codes here. But let's say I put a number like 15 here. 15 doesn't meet any of this. 15 is not less than 4, and 15 is not equal to 4. For that reason, it's not going to execute any of the commands here. Any question before we proceed? Okay, let's look at another one. Now we have the, note that what we are doing so far is just comparison. We are only comparing values. When we did something like this, we are saying that we are comparing if the value of num is greater than 3. We are only comparing values. So let's say we want to use equal to. Let's look at what's going on. We are saying variable num is 15. We want to check if the value of num is equal to 3. Now, is 15 equal to 3?
No.
No.
That condition is false, so it's not going to run this. But then, if you put 3 here, is num equal to 3?
Yes.
Yes. So we expect it to run the code here, but there's a little problem with this code. And that's why I said all we've been doing so far is just to compare values. Note something. For you to understand what is going on, give me a minute to quickly explain something. We have variable num as 3. Look at something. If I say num equals to 6, and we say print num, what do you think we will say?
Confused.
Okay, what do you think we will say? Will we see error? Will we see 3? Will we see 6? Or what do you think we will say?
6.
Okay. Contrary opinion.
It will print 3.
Okay, someone said it's print 3, it will print 6. Another opinion. Now let's look at what's going on.
6 and 3.
When we run this code, we are going to see 6. And the reason is this. Your code reads from the top to the bottom. Your code reads from the top to the bottom. Let's see this code. Number 1, on the first line, line 1, we commented it, meaning that we are telling Python not to read the codes there. On line 2, we created a container called num. And we use this equal to sign to insert 3 into that container. There is a container now, meaning that there in the memory of Python now, there is a container labeled num, and there's 3 inside that container. And note that it is this equal to that we used to insert this 3 into this container. On line 3, it now sees that we are calling on num again. So what it's going to do is instantly to go to its memory and say that, oh, I already have a container in my memory labeled num. So all you just do is it will now insert this 6 into that container. So 6 is going to replace whatever might be inside the container.
Okay.
So when you say print num, it's going to print whatever is inside that container. So and you know that as at this point now, we have 6 in the container. If we have this, this will print 3, this will print 6. That's because it will first create a container here on line 2, insert 3 inside it. And when you say print num, it will print whatever is inside that container. It will print 3. Then on line 4, you are changing the content of that container to 6. So when you say print num again, it will print the content of that container. So 6 will replace whatever might be there, and this will print 6. Any question?
Okay, so you're saying Python prints or runs from down to up. Am I right?
From top to bottom.
Top to bottom.
Yes.
Okay.
Do you get it? That's
Yes,
number
yes.
one. Here it's going to create a variable called num and insert 3 inside it. Here it will print the content of that container, and you know the content of that container is 3. On line 4, it will now, instead of creating a new container, it will go to its memory and say, since I already have a container in my memory labeled num, so it will insert 6 into that container. This 6 will replace whatever might be there. It will replace it. So meaning that the
Okay.
content of num will no longer be 3 when you get to line 4 now. The content of num will no longer be 3, but now it will be 6, since 6 is going to replace whatever might be there. So when you say print num on line 5, it's going to print 6. Do you get the explanation?
Yes, yes, I do. Thank you.
You're welcome. So, now, I want us to know that we use this equal sign to insert values in containers. So, let's now go back to what we were explaining. If we now say if num equals 3, what it's going to do is this. Let's say num is 7. If we say if num equals 3, what it's going to do is it will now try to insert 3, because that's the work of this equal sign. You use equal sign to insert a value in a container. So what is going to do at this point is it now it will attempt to insert 3 into num. It will attempt to assign 3 as the value of num. Do we get what is going on? But in Python, we don't assign inside this place. What you need to do here just to compare, you only compare values here. You don't assign values. You can assign here, but you don't assign here. So this will throw back an error, meaning there is something wrong with this code. We are trying to change the content of num to 3, and that is not possible here. All we want to do is to compare, just to check if the value inside it is 3, not to change the value inside it to 3. Do you get the difference? If you are lost.
Yes,
Okay. If you
yes.
don't get it, please signify.
Yes, we get it, because you are saying that we cannot assign in a conditional statement.
Yes, you can't assign here. So it's
So you
trying
can
to
only
change it.
assign.
You can only compare
Okay.
here.
Okay.
So what you can now do is you can use double equal to. This double equal to, we only compare, is not going to assign. So this will check if the value of num is equal to 3. And since the value of num is not equal to 3, meaning that it's not going to run the commands here. It's not going to do all of this. But let's assume we have 3 here. Then it means that the value of num is equal to 3. The condition is true. Then it will run these commands. Any question before we leave this part? Let's proceed. So far we've looked at this. We've looked at the greater than, we've looked at the less than, we've looked at the greater than or equal to, then we've looked at the less than or equal to, then we've looked at the double equal to. These are the conditional operators that we've looked at so far. But so far also, we won't be dealing with numbers. Let's deal with strings and other data types. So let's say I have name, and the value of name is Taye. Then I can say if name is equal to Kenny. So is name equals to Kenny?
No.
Will it print this out?
No.
No, so it's not going to print it. Again, if I want this, will it print this out? Hello everyone.
Why? Because
Yes.
Okay, it's not going to print it out. I just want us to know that
not
it is
because
case sensitive. This is capital letter T, while this is small letter t. They are not the same.
Mhm.
So it is case sensitive. It's not going to print it out. Let's proceed. Now we looked at strings also. Let's now go to the most important thing in if statements, which is boolean. Handling boolean is the most important thing. And please, I want us to be patient here. Take note of everything I'll be saying at this point. Let's go. I want us to look at something interesting in if statements. You see, whenever you put something like this in Python, let's go back to one of the examples we've used. We created a variable then the other time called num, and we inserted a value inside it, and we did something like this. If num is greater than, let's say 2, then we say, let's say print I. We did something like that, and we said if we run this code, it's going to print I. That's because this condition is true. What is a boolean? Before we proceed, what is a boolean?
That's a true or false statement.
Anything that's either true or false. I now want to note something here. That whatever is written here, whatever, like whatsoever you put here, Python will convert it to either true or false. At the background, like whenever Python wants to execute it, Python cannot execute this time like this. It can't. It needs to find a way of converting whatever statements you put here to either of these two, either true or false. Do we understand? Are we together?
Yes.
Thank you. Whatever you put here, you need to either Python is going to convert it to just one of these two, either true or false. If it's able to convert it to true, then meaning it's going to run the codes here. If it's able to convert it to false, meaning that it's not going to run the codes here. So the reason we're able to see I, or the reason we will see I if you run this code, is because Python is able to convert this thing to true. But let's assume it converted it to false, then we won't see this high. So at the background, Python will just put either true or false here. Do we get it? So this is what happens at the background. Python is going to execute this command like this. If is not greater than 2, yes, Python will just put if true, because the condition is true. So let's assume we put 1 here. Is 1 greater than 2?
No.
It's not 2. So at the background, Python will convert it to if false. I hope you are getting it.
Yes.
So what that now means is that if you write a code that looks like this, if so, print Taiwo, I will see Taiwo on the screen. Just by writing if so. And if I say if false, print Taiwo, I won't see Taiwo because this is false. Python should be the one to do this conversion, but now I'm helping Python out. So whatever you put here, at the end of the day, it will end up becoming either of these two. Either true or false. Whatever you put here will end up becoming either true or false. Please, that's the most important thing you can learn in if statement. Now let's proceed now. And why am I teaching us this? So I will create a variable again and say variable is true. So we can say if no print hello. Will I see hello? Will it display hello or not?
Yes.
It will display hello. It's the same thing as just saying if. Then let's come again. Will this display hello or not?
No.
No,
No.
it's not going to display hello. This is simply as saying if false. display hello or not?
Hi, Taiwo. Sorry, are you able to mute? Because I really can't hear you anymore.
Can you hear me? Hello?
I can hear other people's noise in the background, not you.
Oh, no noise here. Every other person, is it the same at your hand?
It's the same with me.
Wow.
Hello?
Hello?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Taiwo, I don't think you're the
Sorry,
problem. It's the other
I
people with their mute.
was sorry. I was the one that didn't mute myself. I was driving. Sorry, I'm so.
Okay.
I will park now. I just mute myself. I think it was just a mistake, please.
No problem.
Sorry, please.
That's fine. So can we all hear me now? Or you
Yes.
can just do
Much
the
better.
Okay, much better. Okay. Now, back to what I was explaining. So, will this print hello or not?
Yes, it will
Uh,
print hello because num is equals to false.
Okay. Any contrary opinion?
I
don't
honestly can't answer the question because I didn't understand the double equal sign earlier on.
Oh, okay. We'll go back to it. Any other opinion?
I don't think it will print.
Okay. Now, this is going to print hello. Is num equals false? Yes. Num is false. Is false equals false? Yes. The condition is true. Is false equals false? Yes, it is correct. False is equal to false. So this will, at the background, Python will convert it to true. So it will print hello. Now, someone said he didn't understand the double equal sign. So let's quickly go over it before we proceed. So we created a variable called num, and we said, let's say num is 5. You can say if num is equal to 1, then print, let's say, so I think that the value of variable num is 5. Then is this condition true? I'm asking now, is this condition true?
Yes.
Is num equals 1?
No,
No, it's greater than 1.
Aha, is this condition
no,
true?
no, it's not true.
No.
No, it's false. It's greater than
False.
1.
Num is not equals to 1. The condition is false. So for that reason, we can say that it's not going to print good, right? But what if we have this? Is this condition true?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, the condition is true. So you expect it to print good. Why not explain that this is not going to print good. Instead, it will throw back an error. In fact, the initial code, this will also throw back an error. And I now explain the reason for that. I said the reason for that is this. This equal sign is used to insert a value in a container. In order to explain this, I did something like this. I said num equals to, let's say 8, and we said print num. And if you execute this command, you are going to see 8. That's because Python reads code from the top to the bottom. On line 11, it's going to create a container, and 1 will be inserted into that container num. On line 12, once it sees num again, instantly it goes to its memory since it has already created a container called num. So instantly it goes to his memory and says to it's going to say to itself, oh, I already have a container labeled num, and this person is trying to insert something into num. So instead, it will now replace whatever might be inside that container with 8. So the content of that container is going to change from 1 to 8. So when we say print num, it's going to print 8. Do we get the explanation?
Yes.
Okay. So we can now agree that it is this equal to sign that inserts value into our container. So we use this equal to sign to insert 1 inside the container here. We also use the same equal to sign to insert 8 into the same container. So when you run the code like this now, and we say if num equals 1, what Python will try to do is it will try to insert this 1 into this container. And I now explain that what we are doing here, we should not assign value here. We should not insert value into a container. We should only compare. The greater than, the less than, the greater than or equal to, the less than or equal to, they only compare. They don't try to insert value. And that's exactly what we want to do here. We only want to compare, not to insert a value. And since the equal to sign inserts value, that's the primary purpose of the equal sign. It assigns a value to a variable. So we can't use the equal sign. They now make another sign available to us to compare, but not to insert. We have the double equal to. This only compares. It doesn't insert. It doesn't assign. So the double equal to sign, we check if the value of num is equal to 1. If it is equal to 1, it will do whatever you want it to do. But if it's not equal to 1, it's not going to do it. So it will only compare the values. Do we get the explanation?
Yes. Thank you very much.
You're welcome, sir. So let's proceed now. We have this. So this num is 8. This is going to check if the value of num is equal to 1. And since 8 is not equal to 1, it's not going to print good. But let's assume this is 1. Then this condition is 2. So this will print out good. So back to, I was not trying to explain the two first, the boolean, how to use it with boolean. So I said boolean is the most important thing you can learn under if statement. That's because every other thing you are doing in if statement still will be converted later to boolean. Like Python is going to execute it to boolean, just true or false. If you have, if, let's just go back to the code we just deleted. Is this condition true? Yes. At the background, Python will now change it to true, since the condition is true. But let's assume we have this here. Is this condition true? No. At the background, Python will change it to false. So if Python puts true here, it will run the command here. If Python puts false here, it will run the command. It will not run the command here. If Python puts true, it will run the command. If Python puts false, it's not going to run the command. Any question? So we can now.
No questions.
Okay, so we can now say, we can now do something like this, get a variable. We can say that is true, and we can say if num prints high, prints high. So this is the same thing as saying if true, and I said that if Python puts true, meaning that it's going to print whatever, you're going to do whatever you want it to do. So this will print high. But let's assume this is false. This is false. So this is like saying if false. For that reason, it's not going to run this command. So I now ask the question by saying variable num is false. Is num equals false? Is this condition true? Will it print I or not? and explain that it's going to print I. That's because this condition is so variable num is false. So the condition is checking if false is false. And of course false is equal to false. So it's going to print I. Any question? Let's
No.
proceed. Now, so far, if you're doing something, you're saying that if the condition is true, it will do whatever is here. But if the condition is not so, it's not going to do anything. It won't do anything. So what we want to do now is this. We want to say, if the condition is true, do something. If the condition is not true, do something else. If the condition is true, do something. If the condition is false, that this is not true, we still want it to do something else. So we are going to if else. Let's see how that works. So I'll just use number to make it very easy to understand. Say if num is greater than, let's say 6. If I run this code, what will I see if I run this code?
I.
Any contrary opinion?
True.
If you not say anything, if you not print it, because no, no greater
Okay. Any opinion? Someone said I, someone said we won't say anything. Others, what's your own opinion? Which side are you picking?
I just run the code, but it didn't print out anything.
Please, thank you for telling us the truth. Please, but for sake of next time, please don't run the codes. Like if I ask questions like this, please don't run the codes. Just look at it. I want to see how much you understand the explanation, everything I've explained so far. Please, for sake of next time,
Okay.
just look at it and
Thank you.
give us the result. Well, of course, when you are doing your assignment, you're going to now run different codes. But in classes like this, if I ask questions like this, I just want to see how much you understand the explanation. So if you run this, it's not going to do anything. That's because this condition is not so. 3 is not greater than 6. This condition is false. So for that reason, it's not going to print high. That now brings us to else. Else means instead of whenever this condition is false, come and do whatever is in the else part. So I can say print evening. So note that you can only do one out of the two, not the two at a time. If this condition is true, it will do whatever is in the if. If the condition is not so, meaning if it is false, it will do whatever is in the else. Any question? So if I run this code, what do you think I'll see?
Evening.
Evening. So
Evening.
So one evening.
yeah, let's see, evening. Let's run it. Evening. So we looked at if else. We want to go to the next one, the if else if. Let's look at how that works. So I will create different variables. I'll create second num. I'll say it to. I'll create another one. Let's call this third num. So we have 3 variables here. We have variable num, we have variable second num, we have variable third num. We can say if num, let's say if num is greater than 0, print hello, else if second num is less than, let's say, minus 3, print high if without num is, let's say, equal to 5. Print, let's say good. Let's look at this too. Elif allows you to write multiple conditions, like to check for many things. If num is greater than 0, print this. But if this condition is not true, then come and check whatever is here. And if this condition is true, print I. If this condition is not true, then come and check whatever is here. If this condition is true, print good. Do you understand how the elif works? Unlike the else does not have conditions. That is, the one we looked at the other time, we had a variable like this. Let's just call it a. If a is 4, if a is equal to, let's say, 7, print abc, else print 1 to 3. I'm sorry. Let's take this to the next line. So the else does not have condition. If this condition is not met, it will automatically jump to the else. But elif is different. In the case of elif, if this condition is not met, then it will come here and check this condition. If this condition is not met, then it will come here and check this condition. Do you get the idea behind elif? Any question? If you are following, say I'm following.
I'm following.
If you are lost, say I'm lost.
I'm lost.
Okay, where?
What does elif do?
You said?
What does it do?
It allows us to check for multiple conditions. With the if else, we can only check for maximum of 2. That is, if this condition is met, then do this. If the condition is not met, then do the if. Don't do the else, sorry. If the condition is met, do the if, whatever you have here. But if the condition is not met, then it automatically jump to the else part. But elif allows us to check for multiple conditions. If this is met, it will do this. But if this is not met, it will check for this and see if this is true. If this is true, it will do this. If it's not true, it will come here and check for this. If it's this, if it's true, it will print good. If it's not true, you can still add another elif again. Like elif can be as long as you want. I can still add another one and say if num is equal to, let's say, 6, print I am a boy. So it will check this. If it's not met, it will come here and check this. If it's not met, it will come here and check this. If it's not met, it will come here and check this. Do you understand how the elif works? If you check one of these, like it will check all the conditions. Check this. If it's not met, then it will come here and check this. So it allows us to check for multiple conditions. Now, do you understand it? If you don't,
Yes.
if
Hi,
it's still
Taiwo.
confused,
Are you able to run this on your terminal so we can actually see what it will do?
okay, now I want to ask us question before running it so that I want to see how much you understand this. If I run this, what do you think I will see if you run this code?
It will run
I think it's only
it
around
will
like
run
20.
It will,
because it will run the if.
and what will I say?
It will run hello.
It will print hello.
Hello, that's
Hello.
good. You're correct. So let's run it now. Hello. Let's proceed. Next is, let's assume I change this to, let's say, 7, and I change this to -8. What do you think I'll see?
I.
Good. -8 is less than -2. This is not correct. 1 is not greater than 7. So it's not going to print hello. But it will do this because second num, which is minus 8, is lesser than minus 3, so it returns I.
Yeah, I.
Let's move on. Still on it. Okay. Then what about this? What do you think I'll say?
Good.
Good. Correct. Now finally, I will now change this to 6. What do you think I'll say?
I am a boy.
Now, I want us to look at this very well. Two conditions are met. Is 6? Oh, sorry. Okay. Look at this. Let's say, let me leave this as this. Let's just change this to 15. And this to 15. Good. If you learn this, what do you think you will say? I want to point out to something very, very, very important.
A boy.
Now,
You would see hello.
It will print only hello, the first condition that was met.
Good. I want us to know that the only reason it will come to this place is if this is not correct. So the only reason it will come to line 22 is if the condition in line 20 is not met. And the only reason to come to this line is if the condition here is not met. And the only reason to come here is if the condition here is not met. So once this is correct, it's not going to bother itself checking others. It will just terminate immediately. That's why it is else if. That is, if this is true, do it. Else if, that is, if the previous one is not true, then you can now consider this. If this is not true, then you can now consider this. If this is not true, then you can consider this. But if this one is true, then it's not going to consider this at all. Do you get the explanation?
Yes.
So with this will only print hello. It's not going to print this I am a boy. Although both conditions are true, but you never get here since this is true. Remember I said Python executes the code from the top to the bottom. So since this is true, it's going to see this and instantly to terminate that if block. So let's run it. Hello. Any question? Okay, what if we have condition that looks like this? If you learn this, what do you think we will say? What do you think we will say?
Nothing.
Nothing, because no condition is met.
None of them is met. So if you still want to do something,
Yeah,
you
no.
can now end it with a final else. Friends, discard. So with this now, if none of them is met, then it will do this final else. But note, this doesn't have any condition, meaning that if none of them is met, then it will not decode here. Let's proceed. Okay, I want to ask another question. If num is 1, num is less than -3, you know this code, what do you think we will say?
None is correct.
Now, I thought I brought this to point out another something important. Note, in a given if block, you can only do one aspect of it. This is one block, it ends here. This is another block entirely, which is independent of the first one. I come again. In a given if block, you can only execute one part of it. Everything here is one block. An if block starts with if. This is one block. Why this is another block which is independent of whatever happens here. You can see that this starts with if, not else if, not else. This starts with if, meaning that this is another if block entirely, which is not dependent on this. So this will print none is correct, and this will still print nights. Oh, one is lesser. No, I should have used greater than. So this will print none is correct, and this will still print nights. Do we understand?
Yes.
In a
Yes,
given if
yes.
block, you can only execute one part. So, but this, what we have on the screen are two independent if blocks, meaning that the quote here is not dependent on the quote here. The fact that it executes something here doesn't mean it's not going to execute something here. So
So sorry, Taiwo, what do you call these things? Is it E block or each block?
if
So
block,
if blocks, yeah?
yes. In a given if block, you can only execute one. So an if block starts with if. So this is another block. Meaning that if I come here again and I put another if, and I say if num is equal to 1, and I say print, let's say tile like this, then this will print none is correct, this will print nights, and this will print tile. Do we get how it works now? There are three independent if blocks. This is one block, this is another block, and this is another block. Any question?
So you are saying that an if block ends with else.
No. An if block starts with if. Look at it from that perspective, because not all if block will end with else. Look at this. This does not end with else, but this is still one if block. Just note that an if block starts with if. That would be
Okay.
easier. So this is one block, this is another block, and this is another block. Do you get it?
Yes.
Okay. So we've looked at that part. Before we go, lastly for today, we want to look at what we call logical operators, and there are three. The three logical operators we'll be looking at are not, or, and. We are going to look at these three logical operators. Let's look at the first one. Not. I will comment out everything so that I focus on not. We use not to negate something. Let's look at an instance. Let's say I have a variable num is 3. I can say if num is not equal to, and we can write it as exclamation mark and equal like this. This exclamation mark stands for not. It stands for not. It's not equal to 5. Print I. So if I run this code, will it print I or not? Note, exclamation mark stands for not. So this stands for.
It
This
will
statement
print I.
it will print
It will
I.
print I.
Good. It will print I. The condition says if num is not equal to 5, and truthfully, num is not equal to 5. So it will print I. But let's assume we have 5 here, then this will not print anything. That's because this condition is not true. So that is how not works. You use it to negate something. Another place where you're going to be seeing not is you're going to see sometimes you may see code like this. So we can now say let's look at this. Let's say first. We can now say not no. It's not allowing us to do this. Wow. Python is not taking this. Okay. Not num, then this should work. Good. Not if not num. Not false is true, so it will print I also. Do you get the idea?
Nope.
Not. We are dealing with boolean. So I thought it would allow us to do something like this. This is not num. At least a lot of languages allow this, but Python doesn't allow us to write not false like this. Instead, it wants us to write it in full. So not num. This is not false. Not false is true. Not true is false. Do we get it? If I say not true, Python will interpret it to false. If I say not false, sorry, not true, this should be capitalized. Then if I say not false, Python will interpret it to true. Do we understand? Are we getting it?
Yes.
Okay. So this, if not num, num is false. What is not false?
True.
So it's going to print high. So look out for things like this. Then if I say not so, then this is false. With this, it's not going to print high.
Yeah.
This one's.
Nothing.
So let's proceed. We've looked at the not. Let's go to the next one, which is the or. We use or to check for one or two things, like to check if this is not met, then this is met. What or does is this. When you use or to check a value or to compare things, it will execute it if one of them is met. It will execute it if one of them is met. So let's say, okay, let me give an example I love using. While growing up, I don't really like taking, what's it called, rice alone. I love combining with something else, maybe especially beans. I don't really like eating rice alone. So, if I now say, get me rice or beans, will you bring rice? Or will you be, let's say, okay, I want to send someone an errand and I say, buy me rice or beans. If rice is available, will you buy it? Hello?
Say that again, please.
Okay, I want to send someone an errand to get food for me at the canteen. I have the person to buy me either rice or beans. So on getting to the canteen, the person realizes that rice is available, but beans is not available. Will the person buy the food?
You buy rice.
Yes.
Yes, the person will. Now, if rice is not available, but beans is available, will the person buy it?
Yes,
Yeah.
the
Yes.
beans.
If both of them are available, will the person buy food?
That's confusing.
Yes, the person will still get me meal. In fact, since rice is available instantly, the person will buy it. The person will not even bother checking beans because I said rice or beans. He checked the first one before checking the second one. Since the first
Yeah.
one is met, instantly it will buy it. It won't even bother itself checking the second one. Do we get the explanation?
Makes sense.
Since I said rice before beans, immediately the person asked for rice and they said rice is available, the person will not even bother asking for beans. Instantly, the person will get the rice and come back. But if there is no rice, then the person will now proceed to ask for beans. If there is beans, then the person will buy it and bring it. But if there is no rice or beans, if there is none of them, then the person will first ask for rice, no rice. What about beans? No beans. Then the person will come back without buying anything. And that's how the or works. But let's look at the and. When you say buy me rice and beans, ma, if I'm getting to the canteen and the person asks for rice and they say there is rice but there is no beans, will the person buy it?
He might not buy it because he wants both rice and beans together.
Good. That is how the and works. So even though one is met, since the second condition is not met, it's not going to do anything. And also, if there is rice but no beans, the person will not buy it. If there is also beans and no rice, the person will not buy it. The person will only buy it if there is rice and at the same time there is beans. Then the person will now buy it. That's the way the and works. So we look at the difference between the or and the and. The or will be executed if one of them is met. The and will only be executed if and only if both conditions are met. So, having explained this, let's now write it in quotes. Do you have any problem with the explanation?
No.
Okay, let's write it out in quotes. I'll get available. I'll call this second, and I'll say this is 2. We can now say if num is equal to 3 or second is equal to 2 print good. So what will I say if I want this code?
You'll see good because it's running second is comparable to 2.
Good, correct. Even though this is not correct, but since the second condition is correct, is met, it's going to execute the command. It will print good. Let's look at another one. Let's say I say less than 5 and I say will it print good?
Yes, it will print good.
Good. It will print good since this is correct.
Less
Even though
than.
the second one is not correct, it will
Yeah.
still print good. Let's proceed again. Let's say less than -7. So will it print good?
No.
It's not going to print good.
It will not.
It will not, since both conditions are not met.
But
That
yeah.
is how the or works. Let's look at and. If I change this to and, will it print good?
No.
No, it's not going to. None of them is correct. So I will change this to. Will it print good?
No.
No.
No, it's not going to print good. Only one of them is met. Will it print good?
Yes.
Yes, it will print
Yes.
good. Both conditions are met. So we've looked at the and the or. But we are not going to stop there. Let's now look at more complex things using this or and, because truthfully, when you are writing code or when you are reading solving task, most time it's not going to be straight like this. So let's look at some of those things that you might see, so that you can see how much you understand these things. So let's get another variable. You can say if num is equal to 5 or second is equal to 6 or third is equal to 3 point hello. So with this point hello,
Yes.
yes, it's a print L. Now that's something funny about or. See, if you join 100 statements together using or, if 99% if 99 of them are wrong and one is right, it will still do it. This is because Python reads code. You know, I said the other time that Python reads code from the top to the bottom, Abi.
Yeah.
Then when it gets to that line, it reads from the left to the right. So let's see how Python is going to read this. At the background, Python will ask itself, is num equals 5? Is num equals 5?
No.
So Python will write it like this at the background. Let me close this. Python will say num is not equal to 5. That is false. Let's go. Is second equals 6?
No.
That is false. Is third equals 3?
Yes.
Yes.
So Python will now have this if false or true. So false or false.
2.0.
False or false is false. I'm going to give us a truth table soon that will help us to understand this thing better. False or false is executed as false or false is false, meaning that this everything here now is going to return false. False or true. False or true is true. False or true is true. So at the end of the day, it will now end up as if true. Remember at the beginning of the class, I told us that everything here will either be converted to true or false. Everything will end up being converted to just one of these two, either true or false. If it is true, it will do what you have here. If it is false, it's not going to do it. So Python will convert everything at the end of the day to either true or false. Let me give us a truth table that will help us to get this thing better. So when you have true or true, capital letter 2, the result is true. When you have true or false, the result is true. When you have false or true, the result is true. When you have false or false, the result is false. This if you are using or, let's go to and. When you have true and true, the result is true. When you have true and false, the result is false. When you have false and true, the result is false. When you have false and false, the result is false. True or true, true. True or false, true. False or true, true. False or false, false. True and true, true. True and false, false. False and true, false. False and false, false. So here we are going to have num is equal to 5, that is false. Or is second equals to 6, that is false. Or is third equals to 3, that is true. So what is false or false? From here we know that false or false is false. So everything here changes to false. Then what is false or true? False or true is true. So everything here changes to true. So at the end of the day, Python we have if so, and I told us that if this is executed as so, then it will print the code here. So at the end of the day, it will print hello. If you are lost, say I'm lost. If you are following, say following.
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 Okay.
Lost in translation.
Okay. Good. So just note that please just use this to get it. This truth table. It will make our work much easier. To make it easier to understand. So we've come to the end of
Taiwo,
this class. Yes.
just a quick question. Sorry to draw you back.
Okay.
Could you please tell me the importance of that double colon behind that 3 and at line 33?
This colon.
Yes,
Part
that
of
colon.
the syntax for if. Now, it tells us that we are done with all the conditions. Now, we want to go to the body of the if statement. If I remove this colon, it's going to throw back an error. It's also here, the same colon is here. You have it here. What this means is, I'm done with all my, I'm done with all the conditions. So this is the beginning of the body of the if statement. That is, the body of an if statement means that if this condition is met, then run the quotes in the body. So this is the body of the if statement. Do you get it? This column
Yes,
makes
thank you
us
very
realize
much.
that we are done with the conditions. We are about to go to the body. So whatever is after this now is the body. Is within the body. We still see it again when we get to functions. We still see this column again. So now to our assignments. I will still do a revision before going. This is it. We've looked at not, we've looked at or, we've looked at and, we've looked at if, we've looked at if else, we've looked at if else if. So our assignment is this. You want to build an application, and this is how it's going to work. You will tell the user, enter a score, enter your CGPA. So if the CGPA entered, because the person is expected to enter a score, maybe between 0 to 5. Let's assume we are capping it to 5. The CGPA we are expecting is expected to be between 0 and 5. If the number enters is between 0 to 0.99, you want to print fail, or maybe advice to withdraw or something like that. If the number entered is between 1 to I think 1.99, yes, 1.99, then you want to print pass. If the number entered is between, okay, let me start from the top, 4.5, 0 to 5.0, I want to print first pass. Then it is between 3.5 to 4.49. You want to print second class number. If it's between 2.5 to 3.49, you want to print second class lower. Then if it's between 2 to 2.49, you want to print third class. Then if it's between 1 to 2, you want to print 1 to 1.99. Yeah, 1 to 1.99. This will now be passed. So I just cut this. Paste. let's say the number entered now, if it's between 1.0 to this, okay. So you will tell the user when you run it at your terminal, it will say enter your CGPA. So the person is expected to enter a number. If the number entered is between 0 to 0.99, it will print out fail. The user will see fail. If the number entered is between 1.0 to 1.99, the user will see pass. If the number entered is between 2 to 2.49, the user will see third class. If the number entered is between 2.5 to 3.49, the user will see second class lower. If the number entered is between 3.50 to 4.49, the user will see second class upper. And if the number entered is between 4.50 to 5.0, the user will see first class. So what if the user enters 6, that is a number greater than 5, any number greater than 5. So if it's greater than 5, greater than 5.0, so you just say out of range. If it's less than 0 or so, because the user might enter a negative number, less than 0, you also want to say out of range. So this is what you want to do. Any question? Hello everyone.
Hello.
Do we have any question on the assignment?
For the entering of their CGPA, do we get to use inputs?
Yes, we use input to tell the user to enter their CGPA. So once they fill the inputs, maybe they fill any if it's between any of these, let's say the user enter 1.2, then you're expected to say pass since it's within this range. So let's assume the user entered, let's say 4.3, then 4.3 is here, it's within this range, so the user will see second class upper. So let's assume the user entered 4.85, is within this range, so the user will see first class. Let's assume the user entered 9.3. 9.3 is here, greater than 5.0, it will print out of range. Any question? Any other question?
So I can assume we input data, we use if, and then we use elif.
Maybe. Okay. Alright. Let's have a quick revision before we go. Today we started the class by introducing, we did our last assignment, then we talked about if statements. In the if statements, we said if statements start with conditions. So you're going to have a condition, and if whatever is within that condition is met, so we created a variable, and we say if whatever is within this condition is met, then it's going to run the codes here. It's going to run the codes here. But if the condition is not met, it's not going to do anything. Then after that, we talked about else. Else allows us to do something if this condition is not met. So if this condition is not met, it's going to run the code in the else. It's going to run the code in the else. Then we talked about the elif. Elif allows us to now have many conditions. So I can put another condition here. That's the elif. Then we talked about the logical operators, the not, or, and. We said the not will help us to negate something. The or will be executed if one of the conditions is met. While the and will only be executed if and only if both conditions are met. So we now talked about the truth table, and so this will make our work much easier. You can write down the truth table. Then I think that's what we did today. Any question before we go? In absence of questions, we're going to call it a day. Thank you very much. Please, more than 50% must do my assignments before the next class in order for us to have a class. If not, I won't be able to have our next class on Wednesday. Our next class should be on Wednesday. If you are stuck, please let me know. If you are stuck at any point, let me know. All assignments should be submitted at least 1 hour before the next class. If you are stuck, if I think you need hints, I'll give us necessary hints. But don't think I will do like I will do it for us. No, except if at least more than 50% have submitted. If you are stuck, message me, send a DM, then I will give us the necessary hints that you may need. So, thank you very much. Thank you for
Thank
coming
you
to
very
class.
much.
Yes, have a lovely night first.
Thank you.
Yes, I will upload this on YouTube and send the link to us.